One truth that has always withstood the test of time is how a society treats its women. In order to speak freely, vote, have education, choose who they marry, right to do what they need to do with their own body, the more a society thrives. When there's respect for women as moms, wives, leaders in the community, thinking about the difficulties of the last several months in the Middle East. Out of all the videos that I've watched, commentators, all the stories, the ones that I know are true, feel true based on the people that I know who live in the region, and the ones that are awful propaganda, scary nonsense that are contributing to the hate and the violence that are going on in this world. I spent hours compiling just a few of the clips that rang true for me, align with me and what I would like to promote in the world. I want to promote civil liberties for all, safety, innocent women and children, equal rights to be married, freedom of healthcare, and the freedom to choose how you take care of your body. I'm definitely against rape of any kind. I am against terrorism and people who are fighting for terrorists to have the ability to deem what governments do and how they treat their own people and people outside of their country. I am against people who claim to know what religion everyone should be, and if people don't agree with that religion, that they should be slaughtered, God forbid. There's just a few women who align with those beliefs and want the same for humanity. Please think about content that you share on your social media. Think about where it comes from and do the research to find out if it's true before you start spreading it. Remember, there's only 15 million Jews at the moment in the world. There are 1.5 billion Muslims. As far as we know, over 300 million people are forced to say that they are part of something called jihad ideology. They are coerced. And remember that one little meeting of somebody who lives outside of that theology, who could say the word coexistence is possible, could change a life, could change millions. So instead of throwing your hands up in the air and saying, the world are just terrible, take a moment to just listen to the women and see if maybe your heart changes. Maybe you can find the hope. I'm not saying that there aren't a few good men out there who want the same things and are striving to do the same. And I'm not saying that women have all the answers and that if women ruled the world, the whole world would change. But I am saying that if you listen to the educated women who have been around the world a little bit and come from war-torn countries and have experienced the taste of democracy, the taste of civil rights for all, the taste of what it means to live in a place that has coexistence, you might just find something that the whole world could benefit from, as opposed to, well, you believe differently, or you voted differently than me, or you look different than me, so I'm not going to even talk to you. Time is running out. There are certain forces in this world that want to take over, God forbid, and would like to see an end to democracy in the way that we know it. But are we using our democracy in the right ways? We have people, as you'll hear in this video, who are choosing to use their freedom of speech to fight for terrorists to remain in power. That is not a good idea. Unless you want to be a slave to a tyrannous regime. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please listen to the people in this video. They're way smarter than me. They're way more courageous than me. And I was even afraid to put this together, but it was worth all the time and energy that it took. I know it's long. Most people like little sound bites, but for me, it's only when you actually spend 5 minutes having a conversation with someone and really sitting back and listening to what they have to say and not just getting a sound bite or one sentence or a meme or a GIF that you actually get to feel into what they're saying. And you will know if you spend just a few minutes with somebody, in your gut, it feels true. And you might start to see a pattern here, a similarity between all these women that are speaking. My money is on you. My money is on the small group of people that take the time to learn, to sift through the propaganda, the lies, really flashy fun. Better vote this way, and this person is angry, so we should listen to them. Every one of us has to do some of the digging to get through to the other side and find our own truth. It's not going to come from a politician or some meme or GIF or short video or reel that you saw. Sometimes it takes a few minutes. Just take a listen to some of these courageous females. And please put in the comments what you found. I hope you're inspired. I hope you find meaning in it. Together, those of us who actually believe in democracy, basic human rights for all, it's going to be potentially a long road ahead, but if we join together and at least we have clarity on what that looks like and where it's going to come from, we actually might have a chance at getting it for the whole world. Thanks for listening. God bless you.
I spent the last 20 years talking about this and warning about this. And
fled Islamic Somalia to live in the Netherlands, where she became an MP. Suffered serious death threats. A friend of hers killed her for making a film attacking Islam's oppression of women. And is the author of the international bestseller Infidel, My Life, and her latest book is Prey, Immigration, Islam and the Erosion of Women's Rights.
The small minority of us who grew up as Muslims in Muslim countries or in Muslim families, and we are united in what I call the Clarity Coalition. For years, we've been saying, if we act on belief system that Hamas subscribes to, that ISIS, Al-Qaeda, or any of these very radical political Islamist groups, this is what you get. You get people who are saying they love death more than they love life. They call Jewish people pigs and apes, and they preach about killing Jews, cutting off their heads, raping their women, obliterating the state of Israel. These teachings and preachings, these ideas, these stories, they don't stay in the mosque. They come out into the streets. And that's what we are seeing. And it's not the first time we are seeing it. It's just that the scale is now large. As a teenager, I was going to school in Nairobi, Kenya, the Muslim girls' secondary school. And most of us in that school identified as Muslim, but we were not political. We were not even overtly religious. From one day to the next, we had a penetration of a movement called the Muslim Brotherhood. There was some kind of Iranian activity, but with the Muslim Brotherhood came doctrine of Hamas. We saw ourselves not as Muslim individuals who worshipped God according to the Quran. We were members of the Ummah. If you were non-Muslim, our job as teenagers, as Muslims, was to try and convert the others. And if they refused, then we had to do what was in our means to bring them to destruction. Our job was to sit down and pray for their destruction. I remember thinking, but where were the Jews? We didn't have any Jews that I knew of in our neighborhoods. I hadn't seen a Jew until I came to the Netherlands in 1993. We would open the tap, the water, when the tap starts coughing because there's no water coming out, her remark would be, oh, those Jews are at it again. And everybody would nod and sort of, affirm the fact that all things evil were caused by the Jews. Lack of water, lack of food, diseases, and economic turmoil. The Jews were behind it. Finding excuses in the Quran and in Islamic scripture to unite and to mobilize to destroy them, that problem has only become bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's what we are seeing now. And unfortunately, it's imported into the West. So what you're seeing in London, it's not only Muslims and Palestinians who grew up in Muslim households who were brainwashed into this poison. We have, along with them, people on the left who should know better. They don't have the excuse of being brought up in Muslim households. They call themselves queer Marxists or cultural Marxists. They call themselves climate activists, shouting from the river to the sea shall be free. And that is a call to genocide, the obliteration of Jews.
When I see people in the United States, the young generation, going to elite universities, saying, like, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. They never been to Palestine. They never been to Israel. They don't understand what a Palestinian is feeling.
I'm sorry that I'm using my microphone to send a message to the world. As a journalist, this is my only weapon. Since Saturday morning, the state of Israel is under attack. Our beloved country is under attack. We are under an attack of a brutal, barbaric, inhumane terror organization. Not an entity, not a government, not a leadership, but a terror organization. Hamas murdered and slaughtered in cold blood innocent babies, children, elderly, women, and men in their homes, in their beds. Hamas kidnapped and took captive innocent babies, children, elderly, women, and men. Hamas has targeted and fired thousands of rockets and missiles on innocent babies, children, elderly, women, and men. Civilians, citizens of the sovereign state of Israel. And we, the citizens of the state of Israel, all of us, left and right, secular and religious, Jews, Christians, Druze, Muslims, minorities, and immigrants from all over the world stand united together in this fight.
To a taxi here in Israel. إيمان، أنت حاسة بإيمان هونك ومرة متدينة ماشي بإسرائيل بالشارع؟
معلوم أنا حاسة بأحلى أمان.
يا ماما إيليلو للبابا خلي جبلي بارودة عبيها وخبيها وقاتل فيها اليهودي. هود العديات.
I believe, we must believe, that there will be peace someday.
When will that be?
When the Arabs love their children more than they hate us, that's when peace will come.
Went to Israel 3 times actually.
Do you think there's segregation like people claim?
No, I wanted to meet Muslims and also Palestinians. I met a lot of Israeli Arabs that told me they feel safe, they have their rights, and that's the country that they call home.
لتحت المساعدات ما بيجوا للأمة ولا بيجي للشعب كله. إحنا جايين من غزة وكل الدعم بيجي إلنا. أنا بحكي وما بخافش منهم. أنا بحكي إلهم كمان. أنا كل الدعم بيجي لقطاع غزة.
الحج كتير بيوصل اللي بيوصل إشي قليل وبيتوزع هيك بيحكوا.
كله للبيوت إلهم. خليهم ياخدون ولا يطخون ولا يعملوا اللي بدهم إياه حماس.
I'm so disappointed from your behavior. You're not condemning all the abuse that happened to our women.
UN was organized after World War II, literally for the purpose of making sure that another world war doesn't happen. Oh, and of course, we recently learned that several members of UN's aid agency were actually instrumental in the October 7th attacks. So I guess my question is, short of platforming terrorists, dictators, autocrats, what has the UN actually done except exponentially increase the prospects for a third world war that it was literally designed, organized to avoid?
Do you think that just because you can yell louder than the other side, because you have a larger group of protesters than the Israelis, and you have a microphone, that just makes everything that you're saying true? Literally connecting your identity and your African-American identity to that with Palestinians. But Israel isn't even at war with the Palestinian people. Israel is at war with Hamas, the terrorist organization, seeks to annihilate the Jewish people off of the map. The terrorist organization that has been taking billions of dollars and euros. And instead of building a strong infrastructure, economy that the Palestinians can live off of, took all of that money and funneled into terrorists. Talk about the Palestinians' rights, bro. With you on that. Let's you they are using as a token. Do your people do that? Have the African American people, have they done that before? Have they called out for annihilation of a whole other people? No, they haven't. Our identities are much more connected. The Jewish people have experienced slavery in multiple countries around the world.
That all parties to the conflict in the Gaza Strip are bound by international humanitarian law. It is gravely concerned about the fate of the hostages abducted during the attack in Israel on 7 October 2023 and held since then by Hamas and other armed groups, and calls for their immediate and unconditional release.
There you go. It's official. The ICJ said release the hostages. No more excuses. Bring them home.
My grandmother used to say that the Poles were worse than the Germans. How can you be worse than a Nazi? And we knew the Germans. We knew what they looked like. We knew what they wanted. We knew what we could expect from them. The Poles were our neighbors. They played with our kids. They borrowed sugar from us. And then all of a sudden the Germans show up and the Poles are like, oh, there's a Jew over there, there's a Jew over there. And they turned us in and then they took our houses. I understand that now. Hamas is who they are. They are the ISIS of the world. But the people denying what Hamas did, those that we stood with that won't stand with us, we see you.
I'm the mother of Noah. She was taken away by Hamas by 7 October in the morning. 2 months from her. Since then, I felt hopeless. She is our only child. She is a very happy girl. She loves friends, loves dance, loves music, loves good life. As a mother, I worried about her very much. How she is feeling, how she is eating something. Noah, I'm waiting for you.
Palestinians say hundreds killed in Israeli airstrike on Israel hospital. Israel blames Islamic Jihad. That still exists. It is a headline that has been debunked by governments across the world, including even our own Prime Minister, albeit 7 days late. I'll apologize to Jewish Canadians. I want to know if you'll apologize to Canadians. And I want to know when we can expect a retraction from CBC.
I will not apologize. And in the West think that Israel's the white supremacist.
I understand it. My father's a Jew and my mom's African American.
If we can't tell you how to resist, you can't tell us how to conduct ourselves when you resist. The fact that people are still saying that 7th of October was an act of resistance is baffling. Rape is not resistance. Unaliving children is not resistance. Kidnapping is not resistance. Ordering people is not resistance. Stop using words you don't understand the meaning to. And anyone asking for a ceasefire, please stop. We didn't ask for this war. We don't want to prolong the war. But if your idea of a ceasefire is to return thousands of terrorists, it won't happen. Person Annie Lennox, whoever that is, who stood up on the Grammy Awards on that stage, and after you got on the stage and said, ceasefire now, was there a ceasefire?
I'm lucky, broke out of the system that brainwashed hundreds of thousands, millions. I was born in Damascus. Father is Sunni. Is Lebanese, Shiite, in the Bekaa Valley, actually, the heartland of Hezbollah. And I must admit that in my teenage, I liked them. I thought Hezbollah were hero incidents. I ended up in the Jewish quarter in Strasbourg, and I thought it's like the Jewish quarter in Beirut or in Damascus.
Quarter in Damascus is, it's a museum, no more Jews.
I had never seen a synagogue. Across the street to the grocery store, I realized that when 4 men, Orthodox Jews, with sideburns and the hats. And if I had a panic attack, stormed out across the street, ran up to my bedroom, locked the door, although no one was following me, couldn't breathe. And when I was calming myself down, I looked in the mirror and it just hit me. I realized the absurdity of our reality, sharing the same space with Jews, with the alleged enemy, right? Sure of hatred, but mostly fear.
Fear. It's all about fear.
I revisited the narrative I was taught at school, by my parents, by my friends, the news, the professionals who blame everything, all ills of the world on Israel. I read the narrative that was omitted from my existence, the Jewish story, the Israeli version of the events, to realize that Hezbollah are not heroes. They were actually the assailants. And throughout the last 70 to 80 decades, Israel showed a lot of restraint.
Unfortunately, it's lose-lose here. You show restraint and the enemy sees that as weakness. You use force and the world sees us as oppressors.
As I know, the amount of anti-Semitism, deep-rooted, ingrained in their existence, that's surfacing, not only in Germany. I'm so proud to be here among people who teach us a lesson of resilience, of solidarity, of persistence. I founded a project called Arabs Ask.
All liberation and all oppression is tied together, but not in the way that y'all think, because the way you think is one-dimensional. If the oppressor is not European, then it is not oppression, it is resistance. And Mizrahi are trying to tell you, Iranian people are trying to tell you, Kurds are trying to tell you, Yazidis are trying to, everyone is trying to tell you, but you don't listen. The idea that you know better than all of us and that you are going to free us from what you think we need to be freed from. No, I'm good. That's like you coming in my house and fixing my sink when I'm fucking telling you that the roof has a hole in it, but you're insisting it's the sink.
I don't think it matters anymore what brand we are, what age, what religion, what class, what shape, what size, what world texture. All that matters is if you have a soul and breath inside. At the end, there will be 240 souls who have been buried deep below the ground, but they are still breathing. And here I wait. Here is Yosef's coat, and it's all bloody. Ani ma'amina be'amuna shlema. One day we will see all of them again, and we will fall on their necks, and we will weep when we see their faces, and see that they are all still alive. When the captives return to Zion, we will be like dreamers, and our mouths will spill out with laughter all over the floor.
Please remember to see one beautiful soul. Let us treat one another as we are all connected like fingers on one hand.